The legal term we use here in the Philippines is something called insolvency. It means na lang essentially na insufficient yung cash flow ng company, no? That's or kulang yung assets ng company. So that's a financial statement insolvency naman. The most prominent of which, is yung Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act, RA 10142. Generally, it's the FRIA that governs yung rehabilitation, liquidation, and suspension of payments.
Natin yung mga options, Commissioner. No? So yung una muna ay suspension of payments. Ako yung business ngayon, hindi ako nakapag-operate until now kahit na GCQ na, hindi pa rin ako full na nakakapag-operate, wala pa rin mga income pasok. So kapag meron akong utang, ang gusto talaga ay ma-suspend, no, yung payment. So paano yun papasok? Kailangan ba ng court procedures to be able to do this?
Yes. For suspension payment is a option available only to individual debtors, so not really corporations. It happens when an individual debtor, he has sufficient property to cover lahat ng mga utang niya, to cover all his debts, but baka they cannot pay it as they fall due. So usually, ang ginagawa natin yan, mag-file tayo ng petition for suspension of payments before a commercial court.
Pwede ko bang i-negotiate sa korte na habang nag-suspend yung payment, ay hindi na accrue yung interest? Kasi namamatay na nga yung business ko and the more na magbabayad pa ako ng interest dyan, baka mas lalo kong mahirapan.
Pero ang suspension of payments kasi in effect means na kaya mo naman yan bayari. You just don't have enough at this particular point of time. So suspended lahat ng payments, and then there is something called the creditors meeting that the court will call upon. So i-require lahat ng creditors mo pupunta sa court with the debtor as well. Tapos mag-uusap kayo doon and you'll come to an agreement. And ang requirement pa, very double majority requirement nga to get an agreement there. Kasi you're required to have 3/4 of the debts mo, of the liabilities mo, creditors representing 3/4 of the liabilities mo to be present before there's a quorum. And then of the 3/4, to vote on the agreement para ma-allow ang suspension agreement nyo, ma-allow yung parang compromise agreement nyo, so to speak, you need another 2/3 vote. So medyo mahirap din yung process. And it's only after that, when you have that agreement, tsaka mo iakyat sa court mismo. And then, tsaka pupunta sa court and then the judge will then accept that particular agreement.
So what happens if hindi nagko-cooperate ang mga creditors?
Babalik to normal, meaning the petition is deemed, not naman denied, but deemed failed, no? Parang dismiss na rin kasi walang nangyari no? Didn't come to an agreement, and syempre maghahabol na yung creditors. Kaya
so the original contract, no, the original terms and conditions of the contract.
All the debts will be applicable now. Ako as a lawyer, I don't really recommend sole proprietorship. I always recommend corporations ka para meron kang protection in relation to your liability. It will not go all the way to your individual assets. The problem kasi with rehabilitation, the corporate rehabilitation is provided sa FRIA, medyo complicated, and the process is very long, very difficult. So generally, only corporations do it talaga. Corporate rehabilitation naman kasi essentially means na pabagsak na talaga yung business, but you're trying to rehabilitate it to bring it back to its former glory, to bring it back to successful operation and solvency. So, and that means it's very complicated kasi usually may ina-appoint pa ni rehabilitation receiver ang korte, someone na magbantay sa corporation. Typically for the smaller business entities, hindi ito masyado option kasi hindi rin cost-effective.
Mukhang hindi practical talaga yung corporate rehabilitation sa mga small businesses kasi maraming mga legal counsels pa na kailangan kunin at legal procedures to do that. No? So, ano yung asset size dito, Commissioner, sa tingin mo na kapag dumating na yung sa ganitong level ng asset size ang iyong corporation, dito na usually pumapalo yung mga corporate rehabilitation?
There's no real categorization naman that I'm aware of. Pero siguro kung ilang million na, maybe let's say bigger amount of mga 30-40 million pesos na capitalization, siguro then it might be worth it. But if it's like I said, a smaller business, no, you're better off either mag-suspension ka na lang kung applicable sa'yo, or diretso ka ng liquidation. Baka easier pa yan
So kung ako pala ay small and medium enterprise, mas ang option ko talaga realistically ay suspension of payments or liquidation. So paano naman kapag kunwari pumunta tayo sa liquidation part, tapos yung assets mo na niliquidate ay hindi enough to cover all of your debts. Can they go after your personal assets?
General rule, if you're a corporation, no. Kasi nga may limitation yan, di ba? They have to go through a certain procedure din talaga. So, precisely why I keep saying na dapat corporation ka kung magnegosyo ka. Admittedly, mas mahirap pero mas may protection yung mga personal assets mo. And as to yung pila ng liquidation, meaning sino una, under the law kasi ng civil code and under FRIA, pero meron siyang preference of credits eh. But general rule, ang inuuna talaga dapat, no, meaning takes priority over everyone, would be labor. No? Siyempre yung creditors talaga, yung debts. Yung later na, yung mga internal, yung mga stockholders, yung mga ganun, yung mga owners of the company, siyempre they come much later yan.
May mga documents sa bank na they ask you to sign joint several and liability statements. So usually the principals of the corporation yon, yung mga majority stockholders, pinapapirma nila ng JSS. Kung pumirma sila ng JSS at hindi enough yung assets ng corporation to pay off the debt, can the creditor go after the personal assets of those who signed the JSS?
Yes, based on the joint and solidarity liability na state document na yan. Kaya nga you have to be careful when you go into debt and loans eh. And that is the workaround ng banks. No? Sinadya nila yan that you have to sign that. So that's for their additional security.
In your practice as a lawyer at bilang commissioner ng SEC, ano yung ma-advise mo pa sa mga business owners on when they should take on debt?
When they have a very reasonable plan to pay it back. Kumbaga, the whole point of you going into a debt lang to go into a loan is to expand the business. So you have to be very careful. As much as possible nga. Okay. If you can't afford it, wag talaga. Wag na. It might not be worth it in the long run for you.
Sa liquidation, ang sabi ninyo, mayroong voluntary at may involuntary liquidation process. Ano yung diferensya nito, Commissioner?
Voluntary liquidation is when the debtor feels na hindi na talaga niya kaya, the business is no longer a viable going concern, it can no longer continue, so he files a petition, so voluntary, on his own, voluntary yan, on his own, to have his company or his assets or whatever that is be liquidated through the court, and then the court will then issue an order, no, assigning a liquidator na siya na ang magdi-dispose ng asset. Kung involuntary naman, usually these are filed by the creditors. But the only reason the creditor would try to file and proceed to file to liquidation is to make sure meron silang makukuha. Kasi na-foresee nila na hindi na kaya ng negosyo, na parang hindi na yata babayaran yung utang ko. Sige nga, ipa-liquidate na lang para may makuha pa rin ako through the court.
Okay. Ang isa din kasi na epekto ng liquidation na kinakatakutan ng mga small and medium enterprises, kasi usually sila yung majority owner noong corporation that's doing the business. And if it goes into liquidation, syempre naapektuhan yung kanilang credibility or integrity. Will that affect their records in the SEC?
No. I don't believe so. It should not be taken as against you, no, na nag-fail yung business na tama-tama hindi lang kaya. That doesn't mean you can't start over. There have been some very successful businessmen who failed the first few times and then tried again.
So yun yung sinasabi nyo, isa din na kapag nag-file ka ng bankruptcy, it's not the end of the world.
No.
It could actually be a chance na para kang mag-ala phoenix na you burn into ashes and then you rise from the ashes. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, sige. So last na, Commissioner, ano naman yung ma-advise mo sa mga businesses ngayon who are thinking of either undergoing suspension of payments, rehabilitation, or liquidation during this time of pandemic? Ano yung ma-advise mo sa kanila in these challenging times?
Well, that's a management decision, no? Kumbaga, management prerogative yan kung what direction you'll go. Pero siguro, if I may pitch lang konti, Vince, no, on behalf of government, before you go and proceed na to go through these extreme measures, na mag-suspension ka na, mag-rehab ka na, or please consider looking into all the different government programs kasi that are designed to help MSMEs. For instance, my DTI Care program. That's a program that's supposed to be a micro lend. That's supposed to lend funds to MSMEs. I don't know if you're familiar with Small Business Corporation. Ganun din yan, no? It operates the same way. They allocated 1 billion pesos to do that yata ngayon to help. Then there's also Land Bank, DBP. Land Bank has I think it's called the iRescue lending program. Si DBP merong response program. Kumbaga maraming mga packages that you could look into that might hopefully help you get through this. And Congress, by the way, is also working on something called the Arise Bill, 1.3 trillion peso na Arise Bill, which is designed nga to project to help and financially assist mga 5 million plus MSMEs din. So kumbaga maraming options pa coming in. Before you go there, I strongly urge you to look at all these programs, look at what can help you na baka makasurvive ka pa muna before you proceed to the next step. But if you do proceed to the next step, then I suggest very strongly you get good counsel, you get good lawyer who can assist you as to that. And wag kang mahiya to do it kasi nga it's not a knock against you, no? Di ba? The circumstances happen, wala kang magawa, nangyayari din talaga yan, no? Sometimes failure is necessary for you to grow. It happens. That doesn't mean you're permanently palpak na, di ba? Hindi naman eh.
Okay, so maraming salamat, Commissioner. Napaka-enriching ating short interview at babalik ulit kami sa iyo kapag meron kami mga katanungan. Pero napakalang sinabi mo nga na bago sumuko ay tumingin muna kung sino yung mga makakatulong at yan ang sinasabi ninyo, nandiyan ang gobyerno natin ngayon para magbigay ng tulong sa atin.